letters often go together, unfortunately. So
Yes.
Sega says it will use AI in game development, but only in appropriate use cases.
I think that's fine. So they say rather than following the trend toward large-scale development, we'll pursue efficiency improvements such as leveraging AI. However, as AI adoption can face strong resistance creatives such as character creation, we'll proceed by carefully assess appropriate use cases such as streamlining development processes. I think that can be a lot of things. I think the Warcraft team has talked about this, saying, "Hey, we use this to model armor to multiple different races, so we don't have to have a guy go in and make sure this is connected to all these dudes. Like, okay, we modeled it to the undead. Now we need to model it to the fishman. Now we model it to fishman. Now we need to get it working on the orc."
Right.
They can just be like, "All right, Mr. Robot, please help me model this to the fishman and the orc." And I think that's I think that's great.
Yes, if they can keep it to that. The part that worries me a little bit is says, however, as AI adoption can face strong resistance in creative areas, like it seems like just the word choice here suggests we're doing this because people on our team will resist it, which tells me I would be down to use AI for all of this if people didn't throw a hissy fit.
Yeah, I think that's every business, though. That's every business-minded person,
it is, and
that
fuck
sucks.
them. But what I'm saying is, like good choice here. I think using AI to streamline the tedious nonsense is great. I think that if you can make it work and you double check that work, that's great.
Yeah, and I think that's what you should do. I think that's how you should treat that process. Is like, this is a tool to make things go quicker. This is not something to replace massive amounts of people.
Right.
This is so we can do more, not so we can fire 1 billion people.
About streamlining the tedious work. It's not supposed to be about churning out, creative expression, removing that from people and just, churning that out into whatever gray paste comes out at the other end.
Exactly. And I think that is. I think that's lost specifically on what it feels like a lot of American game companies. I have talked multiple times about the assets in the new Call of Duty and the campaign of the new Call of Duty feeling like it was made by AI.
Yeah.
And like in a very bad way. So
a lot of these places are, they consider there's 3 levels. There's art, there's entertainment, and then there's slop. And I think there are a lot of people, including just consumers, people who enjoy these things, who enjoy all of these categories on the level of slop with no concern for, other aspects.
I mean, yes. And I've had that conversation with a lot of people, and this is, I feel like a lot of the time, like, I shit on a lot of video games, if
Sure.
I'm being quite frank.
Yeah.
I think I think that a lot of games that come out in a given year are bad. I was recently talking to Anthony about how many games I played this year. I have played 43 video games this year, enough to give an impression of them.
Yeah.
What, like, I could write an impressions article or a review. That is the standard I give to put this in my played list for the year. And then if I finish it, I put the words "finished" next to it.
Yeah.
And of those 43 games, I would have given 3 a 5 out of 5. I would have given, let's see, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12, 13, maybe 14 a 4 out of 5. Which means over half of what I have played this year is what I would call average or worse.
Okay.
With in my opinion, one game being a 1, and then just most games were a 2 or a 3. Over half were a 2 or a 3. And I think a lot of people are not that strict. I think that I think that a lot of people are not that strict about it, and one, don't play that many games. But yeah, to them, they don't see Doom: The Dark Ages as a 3 out of 5. They're like, that's a 5 out of 5. It's incredible. I'm like, it's not.
Sure.
It's fine. And I think that as more slop comes out, they'll just get acclimated to that, and they're like, oh, this is video games now. This is entertainment. And especially if you only grow up with that.
Right.
Like,
exactly,
that's another thing
yeah.
to consider. Like us old timers who will remember when everything was handcrafted. We're gonna go away. It's like the same thing with movies. Like, you look at how many movies now are just like all CG garbage. But and then like I'll go watch an old movie and be like, oh yeah, dude, practical effects look great. These look so sick.
Well, and then also
God,
you go back to those eras and you'll see CG where the CG artists are given the time and money to do what they need to do, and you're like, oh my god, look at the CG. Look at the CG in the early 2000s. This is nuts.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah.
And that's just not
hasn't been here for a little while.
Yeah, and I think that it's once again that it is the result of number must go up, right?
Yes, yeah, it all comes back to that.
It's number must go up, and at the expense of seems like everything else, and that's unfortunate. And there are some companies that are fighting this, of course. Most of them are not publicly traded, and if they are publicly traded, they're making concessions in other places.
Right.
It's
yeah, go ahead.
I hype up Nintendo a lot, but the concession they had to make was, okay, well, we just have to increase the price of all our accessories.
Right.
So now amiibos are $30. Now controllers, instead of being $80 or $90. So
yeah,
is what it is.
Yeah, the long-term thing is like, do businesses keep hammering on this for the long term? Because if they do, eventually, yeah, you have a whole generation of people who just grew up with things being like this, and they just accept it because they didn't know.
I mean, like, imagine, there is somebody, like, Fortnite's been around for 8 years at this point, right?
Yeah.
There is someone who started playing Fortnite when they were 10, who is still playing it today, and that's just what video games is to them.
Right. Yeah.
Like that's just what it is to them.
They're about to go off to college, enter the workforce, and like they just video games are Fortnite and Rocket League and
what people are calling friend slop or calling casual co-op. It's like that's what it is to them.
Yeah.
Versus, like, if you asked me when I was 18, what is video games? I'd be like, oh, that's like Persona 4 and Uncharted.
Right. Like you think like Final Fantasy 7. You think, Metal Gear Solid 3.
Man. Like these like big pieces of art.
Yeah.
These multi-million-dollar pieces of art that are, that require teams of people and are these, one-off either gameplay experiences or narrative experiences. And that's just not. And if it does hit the Fortnite's been it's no secret Fortnite's super pro AI with that Darth Vader thing and the assets and a lot of stuff.
Yeah.
The story I talked about last week with Tim Sweeney being like, AI disclosures aren't, we need to stop doing that.
Why? Well, what's your problem? If you're pro AI, why can't people know?
It's like, well, because every game's going to use it, but they don't right now.
Exactly. Oh, it's weird.
Yeah.
Why? Okay. What's your problem there?
Yeah. But
where is this store? I want to be here.
I think that's the Sega store in Tokyo.
That looks sick.
Yeah, I'd go to a Sega store.
Yeah.
Especially if they have Atlas. Especially if they have Atlas stuff.
Sure.
Especially
right,
if they have a bunch of Atlas stuff. Oh man. Take me to the Persona store.
I don't think I could stand in this amount of lighting though. This is bright and cool as hell. Oh man. Well, let's move to the other AI story here, because this story starts delving a little bit into that one. I believe it's an unnamed studio is now asking their art applicants to draw a picture during the interview to prove that they can actually do the art thing and aren't relying on generative AI.
So I've been applying for marketing jobs recently.
Uh-huh.
And yeah, no, this doesn't surprise me.
Well, I mean, okay, I think your interviewing situation and this, I think, are different circumstances. Like, we were talking about what you had to go through.
Yeah, yes, and that is different circumstances. But yeah, I totally think this is going to be. Now they're not just going to want to see a portfolio for artists,
right?
I think now it's like, no, we'll give you a quick task to do in front of us.
Yep.
It's just like how when I was doing certification tests back in the day, they had to have like a proctor. So you couldn't just take your Microsoft certifications. Like the way you had to do it, if you're taking your Microsoft certifications and you aren't going to a test center and you're doing it over the internet, is you have to go to a room that's entirely basically empty. Like the place I had to do it was like Artisan.
Okay.
And you had to should tilt the webcam to show your desk. So there was nothing on your desk, nothing around, nothing in reach of you that could give you answers.
Okay.
It's you, a laptop, and a desk or a table.
Sure.
And then the camera and microphone need to be on the entire time.
All right.
And no one else can come in or out of the room.
Okay.
So yeah, I think that's gonna be very similar for art. Like, hey, I need you to draw this.
Right.
So
yeah, so there's some quotes here I saw in that prior article that are in here too. I just want to read a quote from this unnamed person in this studio, Mr. B, good name. There are many people who claim that artwork generated by AI is their own creation. We've actually ended up hiring such people only to find they weren't productive, which led to several problems. Because of that, we've changed our hiring process, and it now requires candidates to draw something in person during the interview to verify their skills. As a recruiter, it's a huge hassle, and it feels like we're going backwards in time, but I've heard that several other companies are doing the same thing. The source noted that while this is the current situation, it could change in the future as upper management continues to ask questions like, do we even need to hire creators when generative AI is good enough? Or we should be hiring people who are masters at using generative AI. Mr. B says while he's been continually pushing against these ideas, he says he can feel his position within the company gradually weakening.
I don't, and it's it's because the C-suite doesn't understand this full enough. It's and that's a big part of it.
Well,
right? Like just straight
again,
up.
Yeah, this goes back to number go up. Like, if you market something well enough, and if you can get generative AI to work well enough to do what it needs to do, yeah, the costs are much lower, and it's easier to get the success you are looking for. And that sucks, because the games are not going to be very good.
And I think the audience will eventually have backlash against that unless the AI gets good enough. The dirty secret here that I don't think people are realizing is I think most consumers, there are some people who truly are like, anti-AI for ethical reasons.
Yeah.
But I think the vast majority of consumers don't give a shit if it could look the same.
Right.
Look if you could make... Yeah, like get 95% of the way there. The thing is like right now it's like 25% of the way there. But if you could get like Marvel Tokon to look like Marvel Tokon without ever hiring a concept artist or an in-house artist or modeler and just use an AI, no one would give a shit if it was by AI.
No.
No one would care. Not no one, but the majority of people playing it would not give a shit.
Here's the thing. Pinterest has an AI filter that was needed because people were just throwing AI generations up on there, and a lot of people who are casually looking at art wouldn't know the difference. And you look closely, and it's like there are like 7 zippers on this jacket, and they're all in the wrong place. Why does this have 3 collars on this side, but 1 collar on the other side of the neck? Like, if you actually look at it, like, yeah, this is all nonsense. This doesn't make sense. But if you are just consuming it, I don't care. If it generally pulls off the vibe you're looking for, that's enough. And I think that this is going to be a real test over however long this is going to take. Of like, can you make the average person give a damn after it's pointed out once it becomes popular?
And yeah, I don't know. I don't even think so. I think the average consumer just doesn't give a shit. I think that they like if you can get Romeo is a Dead Man to look the way that game does with an AI, no one will care.
So, I mean, the logical conclusion is this is going to be applied to every part as much as possible. So,
yeah.
The question is, can AI get to writing Romeo is a Dead Man and make it look like it and make it play like it, like 80%?
So, yes, I totally think it can.
And
if you feed it, if you feed it enough Suda 51 content, yes. Because I think that like if you go into like ChatGPT and say, "Hey, I need a review of blank in so and so style," they will go on the internet, they will scan every bit of that person's work, and yeah, it'll be very close. It'll be 80% of the way there.
And what really sucks about this is, people worry about AI eating itself, and I think that will happen to some degree. But here's the thing about art and artists. This is a natural consequence of creative people wanting to express themselves and put something out in the world, which means even in this hellscape where there's no profit to be made, people are still going to make stuff. And it's just going to be fresh to be eaten by AI, unless there's legislation or something.
Which there won't be, because it generates too much money for the economy and the fucking media and the governments that are bought.
Right.
Yeah. Well, like that's the that is the reality of it. Yeah.
I think and then this goes back to just like, I think we just have to be there. You're gonna have to form smaller communities that are just about identifying the people who are making cool stuff and just be with them and support those games.
Yeah, and I think that there are going to be AAA studios who understand there is going to be a value in making a non-AI thing. I think that or significantly less AI thing. But the cost of that is going to be so much higher that those games are going to be wildly expensive, like luxury products.
Right.
Like, I think that if Nintendo goes where I think they're going to go with this, Nintendo's games are going to become that luxury product.
Yeah.
But and as such, those games are going to be like $200 a copy. Like if you want something like, if this AI takeover happens the way the business people want it to be, I still think there's going to be what are currently traditional video games, but for a game like Metaphor ReFantazio, like a handcrafted work of art that looks that great and plays that great and is all made by people, you're going to be looking at, instead of being a $70 game, you're going to double, maybe even triple that price. And that's the way it is now. Like most of our clothes, Aaron, are made in fucking garment factories that are like just automated.
Yeah.
So I think if you're, but if you want a handmade t-shirt, you can still get it. But instead of paying, $15-20, you're going to be paying $60.
And it sucks because if I had the money, I would vote with my dollar, but I can't. That's the problem.
Yeah, and that's part of it, and it's and and so you're gonna have to pick and choose. Like I personally, and everyone has to do this with whatever their financial situation is, and like for example, I personally would choose to pay for the bespoke $150-$200 video game and not the $60 t-shirt.
Right.
That's handcrafted, and everyone's and different people are going to have that in mind.
Yeah, the clothing fight is really hard to have. Video games, I think for people like us, I think we're gonna continue to beat the drum.
Yes, and yeah. I'm curious to see how it's going to go in the movie space with guys like Christopher Nolan being like, this shit is a plagiarism machine that sucks. Fuck this. I'm going to continue making movies with practical effects. And I'm also going to, not only am I going to do practical effects, I'm also going to shoot it on film because fuck them.
Right.
So,
but that's also like the biggest filmmaker. And the question is the up and comers.
I think that those people are going to be going to film festivals and doing everything they can to get their movie bought by Netflix, and hopefully their movie.
I think those people are creatives. I think they're inclined to do that, but I just wonder what happens when those first few decide, all right, fuck it all. The tools are put in front of me.
Yeah, and then we get to the case of like, okay, can a very creative person manipulate AI in a way to make it create art?
Which is like, hard to find out in the wild right now, because the very same people who are using AI controls are doing it because they don't have that bone in their body. And
yeah, they're yes.
Combined with the fact that the technology isn't there yet.
Yes, but like, if it's at this point where technology can build 75-80% of a video game, then it's at this point where, a very creative person, a more, person who in the past would have been a traditional artist, maybe can go, hey, I want you to draw me a dragon using this line work style in this way, doing this thing, like exactly, and it'll make that thing.
Right. The question is like, okay, so I've been looking at Grok stuff there because they've started doing AI audio as well, along with the video. And they get a script that they can speak. It's weird. It's they've gotten past, in a number of cases that I've seen, they've gotten past the uncanny valley point for the most part, but then they'll just say weird stuff, or they'll make a strange expression that, like, it's not like I've never seen that human expression before, but it's just contextually doesn't make sense. So the question is, so they're getting there, and it tends to be like 6 seconds or something like that, 6-second increments. So the question is, like, can you get I'm going to generate this character. Now you need to hold this character design consistently throughout all of these shots, and set design all these shots. I'm going to design, and there's a whole lot of work that would have to happen to make that all work.
But I do think that this is technology that's just like so rapidly evolving. Yeah. Like if you think about what Excel, my old job involved a lot of reporting, a lot of Excel sheets, a lot of data cleaning, scraping. That used to be the job of like an entire department.
Right.
Like that, and now it's like 2 dudes. It's like a 2-dude job.
Yeah.
And I think that this is going to be a similar case where the technology will get good enough, and at that point, how will very creative people get involved with that as well?
It's the kind of thing it's kind of messed up, but it's like they need to create this art stealing machine with artists in mind. Artists who use creative stuff, like, all right, we have a singular creative who wants to make an entire film. how do we make these tools so like, all right, here's how to generate this character and then establish this as the character throughout. How do we establish, I think there's a whole lot of work there. And then there's the big bubble in the room, which is they're having to buy data centers like crazy. They're using ridiculous amounts of energy, an amazing amount of money that I don't know how they're ever supposed to earn it back.
I think the hope is basically what happened with the .com, but like the computing boom and then the .com boom and then the smartphone boom is it eventually gets to the point of where it's so ubiquitous that it is almost a utility. Very similar to the way the internet is basically it is a utility at this point.
Right.
I think just, AI, because you got to think about, because if you take AI to its furthest conclusion, right?
Yeah.
Okay, now we're going to start getting it involved with robots.
Yeah.
Like we're going to start getting AI involved with robots, and now it's going to be doing warehouse jobs.
Right.
And now it's going to be doing truck driving jobs. Now it's going to be doing, light electrical work and, like other tasks. And, you take this far enough, and outside of the most dexterous work that requires just human hands to do, your plumbing, some electrical work, some surgery things of that nature. You're looking at eliminating just all this labor, and at that point you're like, all right, well, now we just need to entirely rebuild society.
Which I would be fine with if it was restructuring around our Star Trek future, where we just spend our time becoming better people.
Yeah, and then I also think it's going to take something very similar to Star Trek, where we nearly extinct ourselves to make it happen.
We're on our way. It's
like, yeah. I think we're gonna hit Cyberpunk first. Like, I think that's where we go first. I think the world of Cyberpunk 2077 is just so very much where we are going on a fast track.
Yeah.
I highly recommend everyone to play that game if you just want to see an example. Like, and really not just play it, like get immersed in it, like live that shit. Because it's so clear that's where we're going to be in 50, 60, 70 years. It's like clear as day. Like if you've ever been to Los Angeles in the past 5-10 years,
yeah. Dodie commented here. It says, I don't think AI will get to where anyone thinks it will right now. I think it's way more of a buzz bubble than anyone wants to admit. And that's the thing, is like, okay, I could see a way where it makes money, but again, it is the power requirements as well, and like what it's doing to RAM, in the world right now.
Yeah, but
yeah,
it's doing that to RAM, but it's also like, all right, well, you can just invest in more RAM, or that'll level out eventually. Like it's using a lot of RAM because we're building new infrastructure.
Right.
Yeah, that's like if you decide to build a new electrical infrastructure for most of the country, it's like, we're using a lot of copper.
I'm just like, yeah. Okay, they're making a bunch of data centers, and it's like, I don't know. Are they trying to do? Are they constantly developing the next use case for AI, or are they just kind of doing it for right now? What we're doing right now, because it seems to be running along fine right now.
I think that there are a bunch of different companies, like going through and making stuff related to AI. You've seen AI robotic, every other day you see NVIDIA being like, we gave a shit ton of chips and signed a contract with this company. And I think it's going to be similar to the .com boom, where you are going to get a bubble burst, like, because there's just a bunch of bullshit companies in AI. But I think very similar to the internet bubble that happened in the late 90s, early 2000s, you're going to see a lot of real companies come out of this and do really awesome shit.
Yeah, this is not to say that there isn't something interesting and really cool in this. It's just that all the people that are involved in it and invested in it are shitheads.
Yeah, what? But those shitheads, like, not the same shitheads, but very similar shitheads were there during the .com boom.
Well, yes, absolutely.
You know, and then the post.com boom, which, you know, you look at the post.com boom, it's like they were right. It totally transformed the world. Like you look at, you know, Spotify and Apple Music and Netflix and fucking every banking platform ever, you know, the smartphone. I think AI will go through a very similar thing, and I think it will take just as long. It will be a 20 to 30 year transformation. Very similar to the internet and computing.
Which means we have to appreciate the early AI sustained boom, because then it will eventually be even more corrupted than we initially thought it would be, and it will just be the 5 websites problem, but somehow like AI's version of that.
Yeah, which the 5 web and AI is going to be there already just because how expensive it is to get in.
Right. What I'm saying is it's going to be worse. It's just the nature of it. Wherever we start at, it's going to be worse.
Yes, which I think that, you know, and I think AI has had some benefits. I can say in my last job, I definitely used it for, you know, certain repetitive, annoying tasks. You know, come in the chat. To be clear, decades down the line, yes, but I think AI will crash and fizz at least one more time before then. Things similar to VR. I think VR never even got a bubble.
It's if your bubble is like the Nintendo, was it
the Wii?
Oh, I was thinking like the Viewmaster or whatever it's called.
Oh, the Labo.
Oh no, the red one.
Oh, the Virtual Boy.
Virtual Boy. Thank you. Yeah, I don't. There were attempts, but yeah, I don't know. I think VR. If we want to go back to the PlayStation story, I want more and more people to get PS5 Pros, and that be their entry into VR. I want Sony to keep investing in to make it a thing. Please, just keep working on it.
You know, Valve is committed at least. Valve is doing another one.
Valve's also.
Like, Valve is out here being like, yo, dog, we didn't hear no bell. That said, I mean, you can get a PSVR 2 for $300 right now.
Yeah.
Again, you know, and
that's pretty, you know, if we're able to pay this much for all these video games, I think that makes sense. But and I think the problem with VR is actually way worse than the problem with, like, VR is in a worse state than AI, because the problem with VR is no one is willing to throw money at fucking VR. No one has ever been willing to throw money at VR the way they have AI. Right.
And I know you can say, but Meta, and I'm like, look at the amount of money being spent on fucking VR in its lifetime versus AI in its lifetime, or even the past 5 years. It just dwarfs VR to a fucking clownish degree.
And that's in large part because there's a promise of profits with AI from eliminating having to pay for people. Whereas VR, it's like the amount of money and time you got to invest in it to maybe get profits that could rival, you know, some other smaller video game titles traditionally made.
VR is continuing to return and fizz on, return and fizz not. Well, I think that the reason that it's like started to hang around this time is because the technology is there. Like in the 90s, you had what was fucking Sega's VR headset? Fuck, the Activator.
I don't know anything about this.
Fucking.
I didn't know if Sega even attempted this.
Sega did a motion control thing. They had a VR headset planned. I think it was the Activator. Hold on, let me check.
Accessory. I'm clicking on the page from GiantBomb.com.
Yeah, here we go. Okay. So GiantBomb.com. It's a website.
Apply it directly to the forehead.
So Sega had like this motion control thing that used sensors called the Activator, and Nintendo had the Virtual Boy. And then you know, like you kind of have the motion control craze in the 2000s, and then since like the mid 2000s, VR has just kind of been around, and it didn't really pop. Like you can still use your Quest 2s and Quest 1s for a lot of shit. Like it's just that it's just not a bubble as it is just kind of this constant, like, this could be cool.
Right.
This could be cool when you get this going.
Yeah.
At least for the past decade. And it's like, it's You know, and I think the technological implication of VR is not there unless you buy a bunch of other shit and have the space for it. Like, you know, I think that, for example, everyone who has used a PSVR 2 and on Gran Turismo has told me it was the most incredible experience they have ever experienced.
Sure.
They also had to buy a racing wheel to do it.
Right.
Then they got a bucket chair. Now they basically just have a fucking car in their living room with a VR headset on.
Right. Yeah.
You know, I'm like, yep. It's, you know, let me buy this $400 wheel for my $300 headset on my $500 game console so I can play this one game that simulates driving.
Yeah.
Yeah. That's,
I don't know. Here's the thing though, is I think if VR had like a really killer game, like I'm talking near Fortnite, and like everyone wants to go check out VR, people will put in the money over time to build that general VR space.
Yeah, I agree with you.
They just don't have that game. I don't know what that game even is.
Yeah, I think Half-Life Alyx was close. I think Half-Life Alyx was a big deal. I think it was Half-Life 3. It might have gotten there. What was the Steam charts for Half-Life Alyx? Out of curiosity. So peak players all at once, 17,000 almost. You know, so it's like it's still kind of a niche thing. It's always been a niche thing. And like Half-Life Alyx is the biggest a VR game's ever been. So it's like, you know, all right, let me try Beat Saber, because Beat Saber's kind of more of a party game.
That one's been advertised like, all the time.
That too. It's been a big, you know, it's okay, 42,000 all-time peak.
Yeah, Beat Saber is reaching 42,000 then.
You know, it's like there's no money in it.
Right.
There's no fucking money here.
There's no money in it, whereas AI has potential huge savings for businesses.
Yes, you know, like across the board. Yeah. You know, so it's like, so yeah, that's kind of where that's at, and it's, you know, all right. Anyway.
Yep. All right, that was that.
That was AI. Let's get into other stuff, and then what we're playing, and we can call it a day.
One last news story.
Let's do a story.
Hey, Romeo is a dead man.